All right, everybody. Here is the set of slides for this part of the assignment. This will hopefully help you read through the slides and get information from these slides. So we're going to go through them piece by piece here. This is the beginning, the big three, the three major religions born in the Middle East: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So all of these religions are monotheist. If you want to go click that definition, that'll tell you more about it. But that means they just worship one God, not multiple gods like previous religions had. These religions have gone through a lot together. They have differences for sure, but they also have many similarities. For a long time, they lived peacefully together throughout the Middle East, but have had more conflict in the 20th century. Today, many Jews and Christians have moved away from the area, while Muslims have become the vast majority in the Middle East. Here we see the Star of David for Judaism, cross for Christianity, and the crescent for Islam. Now, on this page, you'll see the map of religions in the Middle East today. Notice the green, all these green colors are Islamic kind of sects of Islam. So it's different parts of Islam. Then we have the Christian, Jewish, Zoroastrian, and other religions. You'll notice the Jewish population is concentrated at Israel here. Jewish population used to be all over the Middle East, especially in the big cities. But then in the 1960s, they all went into Israel. Then you'll notice a lot of green. You've got the Sunni in the lighter green and the Shia in the darker green. All right, so page 4 here. We are now talking about Judaism. So it's in the first line of your notes. This is for Judaism. This is good for the first line and first column where it's asking when Judaism began. Judaism is the oldest surviving monotheistic religion, beginning around 2000 BCE. Abraham is considered the first Jew. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are all Abrahamic religions. That means they recognize Abraham as their first prophet. So they're all Abrahamic religions. Again, you can click these little links to go get more information. Jews lived all over the Middle East and throughout Europe for most of the time between 2000 BCE and 73 CE. And then this video is totally optional, but if you want to learn more about their movements, you can go check that video out. It is 8 minutes long. You don't need to, though. In 73 CE, the Roman Empire forced the Jews to move because of a rebellion against the Roman Empire. From then on, most Jews lived in diaspora, meaning they're living as minorities in spread out communities all over the world. So this is kind of a painting showing the Romans coming in and sacking the city of Jerusalem. All that was left was the Wailing Wall, which is still there today, and a very holy site for the Jewish people. Judaism in Israel and America. Israel is a holy place to the Jews, Christians, and Muslims. It became a Jewish nation in 1948 after World War II and the Holocaust. And there's still a lot of conflict over how the Jewish people got this land because it forced others out. The Jewish people who live in Israel range from very religious to not religious at all. Now, we have Orthodox. There's all kinds of orthodoxy. Orthodox Judaism means very strict belief. And so here's pictures of Orthodox, here's conservatives, and here's Reform in the United States. A little bit about each of them. So what Jews believe. Jews believe in one God and his prophets. Special respect for Moses as the prophet God gave the law, the Ten Commandments. Jewish law is written in the Torah and the Talmud. So the Talmud is where they start discussing the different parts of the Torah. So Torah is here. Jews are more concerned with actions and rules rather than dogma, which is just like talking about things and teaching people. Instead, they like to they follow these rules. Orthodox law has 613 commandments or rules given by God in the Torah. These include such things as prayer rules, dietary rules, marriage rules, divorce rules, birth rules, death rules, inheritance, and holidays rules. So similar to Islam, they do not eat pork. That's one of their dietary rules. Judaism's view of Christianity and Islam. This is how they relate to these other religions. Jews do not believe in the prophets after the Jewish prophets, so they do not believe in Jesus or Muhammad. They know they existed, but they just do not believe that Jesus was the Messiah and the Son of God, and they do not believe in the teachings of Islam. So we have this is when we begin to talk about the conflicts that happened in the Middle East for Jews. The Jewish people, they got their country Israel in 1948, but then they had a war defending this land and taking over more land in 1967. But this made the Muslim Arab majority countries upset, and those countries forced the Jews living there to Israel. So this is just a picture of these Jews moving to Israel in the 1960s. History of Christianity. So now we're on page 8, and we're on to history of Christianity. This is for the second row in your notes. The second row in your notes. Christianity started from Judaism in the first 100 years CE. Jesus Christ was a Jew. Emperor Constantine converted to Christianity in 324 CE. Then the religion got much more popular and widespread. Remember the African kingdoms like Aksum? They also converted. So we got a big map of the Christianity map around the world. It's really spread far and wide. There's a lot of different kinds of Christianity. You've got the Roman Catholic Church, the Orthodox Christianity, Protestants like Lutherans here in Minnesota, and many, many other types of Christianity. Christianity in the Middle East. There's a lot of different kinds of Christians in the Middle East. We have the Maronites, we have the Assyrians, we have the Greek Orthodox, we have the Copts, and a lot of other types of Christians in the Middle East. Christian communities still exist in the Middle East, some in Syria, 10%. That's where a lot of the Assyrians live. Jordan has 6% of the population. West Bank and Palestine has 8% of the population. And Iraq has 3% of the population are Christians. Mostly, though, the Middle East is Islam. So what Christians believe. Christianity developed out of the monotheistic tradition of Judaism. So they, again, just believe in one God. They have holy scriptures, like the Old Testament and the New Testament. These are part of the Bible. They believe God is shown through 3 dimensions, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And Christians believe Jesus died and was then rose from the dead and ascended to heaven. This event is celebrated at Easter. Christianity's views of Judaism and Islam. Christians do not follow Jewish law, even though they shared a text. So they shared the Old Testament, but then they also made the New Testament. Then they kind of they had a lot of problems with Islam and Judaism, and later the Crusades happened, where it was an unsuccessful attempt to reverse the Islamic takeover of the areas around the Middle East. So these Christians came back and tried to take over land that Islam had taken over, but it was unsuccessful. History of Islam. So now we're on page 12, and we're on the third row. We're talking about Islam now, and it began in the early 7th century CE. So you could write 7th century CE, or also you could write 600 CE. Those are the same thing. In the desert community of Mecca is where it began. So what you see in this video here, that Islam starts around Mecca, and then it spreads, and in 100 years or so, it spreads far, far into North Africa and all the way up through Spain, and then all the way out to Central Asia. So this is just in 100 years it spread quite a bit, and then it continued to spread around the world in parts of Asia, into Africa, and all over the world. Some Islamic communities. Within Islam, there's a lot of different communities, including the Sunnis, the Shia, also known as the Shiite, and the Druze are another important group that's in Lebanon, in the Middle East. Now, followers of Islam may be more or less observant, meaning they follow the rules strictly or not so strictly. What Muslims believe. Some of their beliefs are here. I want to focus on the 5 pillars of Islam. They believe that God sent his word through the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad in the 7th century to share with all of humankind. And the 5 pillars of Islam are declaring your faith, praying 5 times a day, fasting, which starts April 23rd, that's Ramadan, during the day hours, and zakat, which is giving at least 2% of their income to charity, and then the Hajj, making a pilgrimage to Mecca if they can afford it. So making a pilgrimage meaning going all the way to a different place to do something religious. Last page here, the Islam's views of Christianity and Judaism. Now, Christianity and Judaism, they don't really get along. They don't really get along with Islam, but Islam sees Judaism and Christianity as earlier versions of Islam, that they were just misunderstood before Muhammad. So they actually really respect and recognize the Jewish and Christian prophets, including Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. Um, Now, they don't believe that Jesus is like the Son of God, but they do understand that he was a prophet. Now, this is the really important piece because Jews and Christians are specifically protected in the Quran as the peoples of the book. So here you see Muslims protecting a church, and here you see Muslims protecting a synagogue. All right, so with that, let's go fill in those notes.